iRacing.
If the Austrian hillsides are always associated with music, the sounds of revving flat six engines will be an absolute symphony tonight. It's time for one final go this season as we get ready to watch round 13 of the Porsche Owners Club Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Formerly the Österreich Ring and then the A1 Ring, it's now the Red Bull Ring. Let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to the Red Bull Ring. Located near Spielberg, Austria, this track began life in a much more fast and sweeping format. Having gone through multiple different owners, it eventually was snatched up by Red Bull and has its 3 different layouts you see today. While they range roughly between 1 to 2.5 miles in length, the thing they hold in common are fast straights, hard braking zones, and very few corners. In fact, the longest and most common layout, the Grand Prix course, has only 9 of them. Spots like Rebus and Gosser are the most popular corners for overtakes, but both involve dramatic elevation changes. Each have their perils. Remus tends to see drivers make contact when the blind cutback often goes wrong, whereas Gosser tempts you into braking far too late, and the downhill nature shoots cars miserably into the gravel. A few swift bends still scatter the track, with turns like Lauda, Rent, or A1 really testing a driver's accuracy at high speeds. However, most of them don't send you off into the grass. Rather, there is a lot of paved runoff. But they often include some nasty curves most cars will want to avoid hitting, as they've been known to damage suspension and undertrays. A variety of types of racing compete here, with everything from lower Formula open-wheelers to motorcycles, touring cars, and all the way up to Formula One holding events regularly. Set among the gorgeously picturesque Alps, and including great racing on a challenging and history-rich circuit, it's easy to see why fans and drivers are both eager every time they come for a race. Well, Joey, this is definitely a track that is an absolute favorite amongst many drivers on iRacing.
Absolutely, and not only on iRacing, definitely a fan favorite as well. So it doesn't matter if you're messing around with it here in the simulator or get the pleasure of visiting Austria and seeing this thing, a huge racetrack. 2.68 miles with plenty of elevation and lots of passing opportunities. Turn number 3, probably your biggest brake zone on this racetrack, but also look down towards turn number 4. That is a downhill brake zone, and people often get suckered in a little bit too deep. Gravity tends to pull the car out into the gravel on drivers left there. And then sector number 3, call it turns 6 through 10. A lot more medium to high speed corners. You have to watch out for those track limits on drivers left of both turn number 9 and turn number 10 here.
Yeah, it's difficult to get those right while maximizing that lap time, but we'll get to that in a second. First, we want to mention our sponsors for this series, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That's TopGunMG.com. It's the last race of the season, so championship is usually the talking point, but if we take a look at where things stand for GTE, it's saying 12 points right now, but that's not taking into account the drop weeks as part of this. And right now, BJ Fulton has clinched it, so he cannot be caught by Jad Duncan. up at the top. Mark Rondeau is still in a fight for second with Jad Duncan, separating those two, with Dylan Scott sitting in third. Each of them within range of trying to change positions out there, but it's really Duncan and Rondeau that are the closest to one another. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the GT4, which kind of has a similar situation at the top.
Yeah, your points victor, Federico Del Toro, is going to be absent today, but don't worry, he has clinched that championship up there. Christopher Marciniak sits in second place. He is on the racetrack, actually provisional pole in class right now. Then we got Rob Russell, John Momeyer sitting here in fourth, Larry Haas in fifth. All of those drivers I also see participating in qualifying right now. Adam Abrams, Matt Hollander, Sam Mayorga, Jim Garamani, Michael Tercy all have participated in this GT4 class throughout this season.
And as for the race itself here today, it's another of our standard sprint format for this series, as we've got a 40-minute event. It will include a pit stop, though, we should clarify, as the drivers have limited fuel tanks, so they will have to come in and try to take a splash and get back out there. There's our two classes, the Porsche GTE and the Porsche GT4, and they have two spare cars waiting in pit lane if they do run into damage. As we heard Joey mention, there's a lot of paved runoff in places, so hopefully we shouldn't see too many drivers that will need that at this track to try and get back out and complete the race. But we are in the midst of the last moments of qualifying. You know, the interesting thing I noticed about the GT4 class that you were talking about there, Joey, I believe there is only one driver that has won so far. That is Marciniak. So we have a good chance of having a first-time winner tonight.
That's a pretty good point there. And his provisional pole of a 139.3 is actually about a half a second faster than the closest competitor of Alan Watt. So we'll just have to see how the race plays out for that number 35. See if he can grab another win or if it'll be a first-time winner like you were mentioning.
Dylan Scott still our fastest by a small margin there in GTEs. BJ Fulton only 400ths behind right now. It's not the longest of laps, although it's not as quick as you see at Formula One, as they were there in the real world this weekend. They're just under about a minute 30 to circulate around this place. So just about enough time for one more lap, whoever is crossing the line right now, to start their final flyer.
As we're watching Michael Bolton out here in the number 127 car. This is rounding through what is turn number 8, coming up to the two fastest corners, at least in my opinion. Turn number 9 here, you kind of come up and over this crest, just barely keep the thing on the racetrack to drivers left. And then this final turn, you really got to trust the car in that compression. You go charging in there with a ton of entry speed and just really rely on the vehicle dynamics to catch the car, as Michael Bolton lays down a 130.2, not going to be faster than his 128.6 that he currently has on the board.
Adam Abrams out here. Doesn't look like he is going to improve at this stage. Let's see if maybe he can pick it up in this last couple corners. We're looking at BJ Fulton now, who is in the middle of the lap, coming down into turn 4. And as he brakes hard downhill into here, hard to get that car woed up, but manages to hit his marks nicely. So let's see how the rest of the lap goes, as now he continues down the hill into 6.
You see just the slightest bit of elevation as you go downhill here. Kind of the track wants to fall away, and then it flattens out through this very fast corner. You see one of the GT4 cars flying off of the racetrack. And Joe, you know, I was noticing that earlier in practice with those Cayman GT4s. Remember, they don't have the aerodynamic platform like these GTE cars do, as looks like BJ Fulton going to come down into pit road here. That turn 7-8 complex, I've seen a lot of the Caymans really flirting on the edge of grip.
Interesting. Okay, so keep an eye on that. It could be fun to see who winds up going over that edge over the course of the 40-minute race. Michael Bolton on his last flyer crosses the timing line and improves. It's a 28.3, but it is only going to put him in third. Still, that's a pretty decent jump up the order. He'll be on the second row So that's at least a good improvement for him. Meanwhile, this is John Momeyer sitting fourth in his class, and he's also going to abandon his final lap, not going to take the finish.
Looks like that's pretty much gonna draw us to an end. I don't see any other cars out there, although we do have a little bit of time left in this qualifying session here. Looks like about 7 of those GTE cars, 6 of the Cayman GT4s are provisional pole. Dylan Scott with a 127.8. And over in that Cayman GT4 class, provisional pole is a 139.3 with Christopher Marciniak behind the wheel.
So a little over 10 seconds difference we're looking at between the two classes, which means we could see them catch each other rather quickly out here. We'll see whether or not the traffic plays a part, as it does have a number of nice long straights that the drivers can use to get by one another, but could offer some opportunities throughout the race, no doubt. In the meantime, like we said, watch out for Chad Duncan and Mark Rondeau, as they're going to be starting right next to each other, not on the same row, but in fourth and fifth, and they are fighting for a championship here as we wait for that clock to tick down to get to our official qualifying order for today's race. Not a huge field, so it shouldn't have too much chaos out there, crossing fingers at least. But yeah, I say that.
It's the Red Bull Ring, Joe. I mean, we got lots of straightaways and big-time break zones. I'm sure it'll be exciting.
I have no doubt about that. And let's go through that starting order. As the GTEs see Dylan Scott on the pole position. Nicely done. BJ Fulton going to be starting next to him on that front row. Michael Bolton will be P3 with Chad Duncan starting in fourth position. Rondeau on the next row, caddy corner from him in fifth, then has Jeffrey Schulem flanking him, and Dustin Heindel will start from seventh.
Then over to our Cayman GT4 class, it is your pole sitter Christopher Marciniak in that number 35. Alan Watts is going to be taking up the second place position in his number 225. Then comes Adam Abrams in the third place. John Momeyer going to be starting from fourth. Larry Haas back here in fifth, and Jim Garamani is going to round out the field.
You know, the other thing we'll have to watch out for is that pit entry. We've seen drivers that maybe try to push it a little bit too hard. You have to stay within the white lines to try and take, or at least a certain white line. I'll have to try and point it out. But I've seen a number of times, Joey, that drivers will go to pit in and then wind up with a black flag for an unsafe entry.
That's actually a very, very good point. We saw a couple of those drivers kind of yank the wheel over just to make it into pit entry, but Barney is over there watching. You got to commit yourself over early. It is easy to go too fast through turn number 9 and just kind of the car naturally washes out to the left, and then you add in the elevation. People don't think about it, but it's downhill, so everything is kind of working against you to pull the car back over driver's right. So yeah, pit stop cycles, especially with green flag conditions, got to keep an eye out.
All right, we're underway now. A short pace lap around here, as they're only starting just before turn 7 there. And then it's on through to Rent in the final corner. Try and get themselves prepared and ready for this race. They are not allowed to go until they get the green from the flag stand, though. So while they will give control over to Dylan Scott, watch out for him to try and have to get a good jump on the field and be responsive to that green flag call, or else he could be susceptible up into turn 1, which will certainly be a pinch point when we see the drivers take it on the first lap. Pace car is in, and as we come up to the line, we have to wait patiently. We understand we may have had a problem for Watts. Not sure what's going on there, but we'll try and get an update once we get racing here. Green flag is out, and Dylan Scott actually gets a very good jump. Fulton is not going to be able to stay side by side, but it is really bunched up here back behind him as they come up into Lauda. And the first GTE cars look like they're going to be able to get through. GT4s as well, nice and safe.
Yeah, but over in that Cayman GT4 class, it is John Momeyer with one heck of a start. He currently leads the class. His internet connection kind of going intermittent, though. So it really is Christopher Marciniak, that white and red car, being challenged by Adam Abrams as we head up into turn number 3 the first time. So Christopher Marciniak, after starting on pole, slips back to third.
Oh, not the way he wanted this thing to kick off. Momeyer, though, is loving this. He's got clear air in front of him. Abrams trying to see if he could challenge or at least defend from Marciniak, I should say, who sends it up the inside. And he's able to take the apex away. He's got the job done. Marciniak back to P2.
Nice job there for Christopher. He needs to get up on that number 6 car and start making up a little bit of that track position that he lost off of the initial start. And I went back and looked at it, just seemed like he didn't get on the throttle as early as some of his competitors. And you combine that with Adam Abrams not being on the front row, is just kind of a clear shot for John Momeyer to take advantage.
And boy, has he. Looks like he is hungry for this last chance at a win this season. Chad Duncan, in the meantime, has a car separating himself and Mark Rondeau now. Jeffrey Shulam managed to sneak by into 5th. So coming up here into turn 1, he's got a little bit of a buffer between himself and his rival.
BJ Fulton is all on the back as we get this replay of Alan Watts. This is actually coming to the green flag. You see him hook a hard left and slam on the brakes. One can only think, Joe, maybe a little bit of a hardware failure as this challenge for the lead was side by side in 3, and here comes an over-under attempt. Now we're drag racing down the hill.
Scott was able to successfully defend on turn 3, but what about coming down the hill into Schlossgold here? He's close, but he's not close enough. He's definitely proving to be a threat, and all that battling has meant that Bolton and Duncan have gained a lot of ground on them.
Yeah, this is a nice little 4-car train that we got here on lap number 2. So it's Dylan Scott, BJ Fulton, followed by the 2 black and yellow cars. That's Michael Bolton and Jad Duncan. Feed our way around these long, sweeping corners here. Our leader using up all of that racetrack, kicking up a little bit of that gravel. You always want to try to feed in the throttle as early as possible, but you got to keep the car on the racetrack.
Coming down through Rent now. It's a pretty big plunge downhill here until you come back onto the main straight. They don't have gravel like they've added in the real world on the exits of those corners, so you got to stay within those track limits because it is policed automatically here in the sim, and it'll be easy to rack up those incidents and reach that incident limit. Meantime, as we ride on board with Duncan, giving watch on our top 3. Looks like it was a good exit from Bolton, starting to scoot away from us.
And not only that, but BJ Fulton had a terrific turn number 1, so he closed the gap on Dylan Scott, but it seems like this, call it white and turquoise machine out front with the black highlights has got some good top-end speed. It's handling real good down the straightaways. I know that this is an open setup. That could be coming down to a downforce level difference in that rear wing. I know that here in the sim, that can definitely dictate how fast the car can go on the straightaways.
And I'm sure it looks like it's probably cool conditions with all this cloud cover, but it's actually over 100 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface itself. So it's surprisingly warm, not overly so, but we'll see who has set up the car to handle those slightly warmer temperatures there out in Austria. Not something you tend to get when it's cloudy like this. Meantime, Fulton not as close as he was to Dylan Scott. Rondeau, though, is close to Shulam. He wants that spot back, forcing a defense coming up into Rin. That's not usually a passing place.
Not usually, and you see him kind of have to follow Shulam through turn number 10, uses up a little bit more exit. Now he's got a good run on the front straightaway, but this is another predicament. Do you pass in turn number 1? Rondeau's going to think twice about it, tuck back into the racing line. He's going to focus on the exit, but the problem, he blows the apex. He's not going to get the run, and in fact, he's going to lose a position to Dustin Heindel.
Nicely done by Heindel just to capitalize on that error as soon as it happened. Found a bit of an opening and just snuck on by. Now they break up into Remus. In the meantime, we're checking out Momeyer, who still leads. Marciniak, though, looks like has caught him back up, and they brought along Larry Haas, interestingly.
A nice job from Larry Haas in that black and call it red number 266, that third car in line, just kind of patiently waiting behind Christopher Marciniak, who got a little bit loose there. You saw the tail end of the car have a big wiggle and up over that yellow curb on the exit of turn number 1. Cost him a ton of momentum, and that is exactly what you need as you head down these long straightaways. I don't think that Larry's close enough. A little bit deeper on the brake, so it does kind of accordion up even closer. Larry's got a good run coming out of turn number 3.
And back down the hill we go. This is that difficult braking zone. Really steep downhill. A little bit of a defense at first from Marciniak, but he comes back to the racing line. Haas decides not to try to take the open door down to the inside and will remain just behind him. They've really ran away from Garamani behind them. It's about 3.5 seconds already in these first 7 minutes of the race.
Yeah, and not only that, but it seems like Adam Abrams as well as Alan Watts have also kind of fallen off, as well as this battle heating up. So Heindel has now gotten by Jeff Schulam. Remember, he made the pass on Mark Rondeau that we saw, and now it is all Constantining up here into turn number 3. Focus on the exit. Looks like 1, 2, 3 get away nice and clean. Almost equal exits from all 3 of them. You just sit in the slipstream now, see if you can gain that little bit as, pass for second place. Fulton versus Bolton.
Bolton round the outside of turn 4. That is difficult. Down into 6 now. It's a long, sweeping left-hander, and it switches back to the inside for Bolton, and that's going to get the job done for him. That was impressive. It's rare that I've seen drivers manage to go the long way at turn 4.
This had to have been a mistake. I'm looking at our timing and scoring here. DJ Fulton's lap, this lap, plus 1.5 seconds. So this Chrome Martini-themed number 82 definitely made a mistake somewhere, and then Michael Bolton saw that, was able to be close enough and capitalize on it up into second.
Dylan Scott thinking this is a great opportunity to get his 3rd win of the season here as he tries his best to get away from this pair, continuing to lose time as they fight with one another. Chad Duncan certainly would like them to continue to battle as well, as he's behind by about 1.5 seconds. It's a good tow for Fulton. Don't think he's close enough up into Remus, though. And it is a bit of a shorter braking zone coming uphill into here. Not quite short enough as he almost got his nose in.
Definitely was a little bit deeper on the brakes, or maybe just was able to have a little bit more brake pedal pressure release off of that final zone in the brake threshold area as we go down into 4. Both of them nice and tidy on the apex there. So Michael Bolton, even after he got by, is making some good pace. This is Adam Abrams, that replay you see in the top corner here. I believe this was a little bit earlier in the race, and one of the reasons why he's fallen so far back.
Looked like up into Lauda, which is turn 1. So I think that left him facing the wrong way. We've seen a lot of drivers spin there, as it is quite blind over the apex of that corner. Meanwhile, Mark Rondeau, was that a moment for Schulam? Almost seemed like he was sideways.
Very fast section of this racetrack, and now he's kind of right in the middle of the road. We've seen this before. Rondeau almost into the back of Schulam in turn number 10. So this is where we've seen Rondeau opt to stay in the tire tracks, not make the move in turn number 1, but he unfortunately earlier he made the mistake in turn number 1. Off of the gas really early this time, all up on the curb, but once again, Joe, he just doesn't get the exit that he needs to.
So these two were battling in front of Heindel, and now they're battling behind him. Dustin seems to really be able to outpace them. I kind of wonder if his qualifying just wasn't representative of what he was capable of. Well, we're going to leave that back for Fulton and Bolton once again.
Coming down the hill here, and that last lap out of Bolton. So I'm always curious, right? If there's a mistake being made and somebody gets passed, what's the pace going to be like? And this black and yellow 127, he put down a 128.7. BJ Fulton, a 128.8. Our leader, a 128.4. So that tells me maybe a little bit of pressure is affecting the pace of Michael Bolton as we get a full screen replay here. Joe, You said there was a little bit of a wiggle out of Jeff Schulem. I think we just saw why. Mark Rondeau definitely got into the back of him.
It was a hello and then some. But nice catch, honestly. That was impressive. Like you said, an extremely fast part of the circuit. Meanwhile, we're going to see a change of position between Abrams and Garamani, almost banging doors coming up into turn one. And they'll make it out the other side just in time for our leader to lap them.
Goes by Dylan Scott, but I think it might get a little interesting because we've got that battle for what is second place on the racetrack rapidly approaching this Cayman GT4. Adam Abrams versus Jim Garamani. They both are nice and easy through that turn number 3 complex as this one still heated up. Rondeau trying to go around the outside, a little bit of contact, and now he's forced way out there. Not going to get the pass done in the marbles.
No, and we've seen stuff like that even in real life pretty frequently. It seems to be a common occurrence up into that right-hander. Back to Garamani once again. He and Abrams. Oh, well, they've separated somewhat, and that was actually a GTE car splitting them. Jad Duncan briefly interrupting the fight.
Yeah, and because of that, Fulton and Bolton have officially separated. So our top 3 all kind of running their own pace right now. Rondeau versus Schulem, definitely the best battle on the racetrack. They're going to be coming up to these Cayman GT4s pretty soon here. And this is a section of the racetrack where that speed difference pretty large.
Exactly. You don't want to get caught behind. Oh, and that was a late dive from Dustin Heindel in a pit lane. I'm very curious to see if that is going to count as a legal entry into there, or if he's going to get a black flag from that. And I don't see one right now, so he seems to have gotten away with it, which kind of surprises me.
And let me tell you, folks, Rondeau and Schulem split a Cayman GT4 on the front straightaway 3 wide. You see him once again pretty much take it 3 wide. The problem that Mark Rondeau has right here, he's on the wrong side of the racetrack. We saw how this played out last lap. Can he make the long way around work? He's going to try to do an over-under, but once again, just can't get the traction, the drive off that he needs to power himself down this hill.
Nice work by Schulem, without a doubt. Well, and Marciniak has had some contact with Fulton, third place driver, it sounds like, and has set him backwards. And yeah, I just went back and checked myself. There was definitely side-to-side contact between the two.
Yeah, it wasn't as dramatic as what I think it's going to be. Here's the replay in the top right section of the screen. A little bit of a lockup from Fulton. You see he just kind of blew the apex down there at turn number 4, but you got to give credit to Christopher Marciniak. It sucks to go from first to third, but that was minimizing the damage.
And yeah, he definitely is one who's going to be ruining that one, because he had passed and gone well by Momeyer by some distance at that point. I don't think we had covered that yet. Just having to split the difference there, Mark Rondeau, and times it just right to keep on the pressure to Jeffrey Schulem. So work has to be done all over again for the number 35 there on your screen. Larry Haas once again ahead of him, and then up the road, Momeyer another 1.5 seconds down the way.
Good news is for Christopher Marciniak, though, is that he's already made these passes. He's got the confidence that he can go up there and perform, shave off that lap time a little bit, and get by that black and red number 266. Go up there and challenge John Momeyer for the lead again. And even looking at the time left, 25.5 minutes remaining, we're still over halfway remaining in this race, so plenty of time, and everything is out the windshield for Marciniak.
Remember when I said I could have sworn Heindel should have gotten a unsafe pit entry for that one? His pit stop time was 55 seconds in the box. I'm pretty sure that's not a standard pit stop time.
No, unless you're going for the world's hardest charger from that doesn't count. I think you're right, Joe.
So that what was probably an early pit stop to try and get himself into clear air has kind of backfired for him. Meanwhile, watching on board with our pole sitter, Now chasing P2. That was very wide from Larry Haas. That's another incident point just adding up. They do have to be very careful because it's 17 incident points. They get a drive-through penalty.
Well, and not only that, but I'm looking. Larry Haas has got a slowdown, and now John Momeyer way off the track in turn number 1. So this could be the opportunity for Christopher Marciniak. Usually these drivers, they try to give up these slowdown penalties as crafty as they possibly can, but ultimately you still have to go slower on the racetrack. There goes Marciniak down to the inside, so he picks up second place on the racetrack. He's going to set his sights forward on John Momeyer, but don't think too fast. Here comes Larry Haas with a nice exit.
Gonna try and fight back down into turn 4, but covering the inside, Marciniak's going to make that a little bit difficult. Parks it on the apex nicely. Haas cannot respond. Momeyer is the next target for the 35 now.
Thankfully, Momeyer didn't get a slowdown or didn't cost him too much momentum from going so wide there in that turn number 1 that we saw. This is still that Rondeau versus Shulam battle. Got to give some credit here to this number 10 car of Jeff Shulam. It's definitely not easy to have that car in your mirror every single lap out there and still remain mistake-free. He's doing a really nice job.
I was thinking the same thing, that Jeff has been putting up with a lot in this race and is still where he needs to be, at least at this stage. He's got to make it at least half the race and then some to hold on to this top 5, though. And Mark Rondeau desperately wants by because he knows that his real battle is with Jad Duncan up there. That was a poor exit this time from Shulam. He's going to be on the back foot. He covers the inside as they cross atop the hill, drifts back over to the racing line. And yeah, he does hold slightly to the inside to try and keep himself at least ahead, and he does only barely. Mark Rondeau was very good down at the apex.
He was able to carve that apex nicely, but just when he got on the throttle, had a little bit of a moment of oversteer. Not only that, but Shulam was kind of right in front of him, so couldn't really drive through his competitor. Now it's just focusing on these corners coming up. Turn number 9 and turn number 10 is BJ Fulton all over the back now of Michael Bolton. It kind of separated as they went through that Cayman GT4 battle, but now it seems like this number 82 has caught back up.
Battle's back on for P2 now. They got a little bit of lap traffic. Should be easy to navigate around Alan Watts, who holds to the right-hand side. Both of them sneak on past. And I don't think we'll see BJ Fulton be able to get there at least this time. But what about the exit off the corner? We've seen that tends to be really crucial, nearly pushing him through the corner. I'd say that Fulton is quite quick through there.
Almost contact, but no contact. And I think that is fair racing. I got to give a little bit of a mention to Dylan Scott. He has been on fire out there. It is 4 seconds now that he has grown that lead. As it looks like Marciniak, a move for the lead on Momeyer here in turn number 1. Momeyer up and over that exit curb. He's going to try to sit here in the draft. Marciniak has already dug himself out of that hole.
Impressive stuff from the 35. Clearly the quickest out here today. This actually gives a good shot to Larry Haas to maybe get back into P2 because he thinks about trying to attack on John Momeyer. In fact, he'll go way wide off screen while this is a much better exit for Momeyer compared to Marciniak. What's going to happen down under braking as all three are wanting this lead. Who's going to come away ahead? Momeyer's got the inside. Marciniak does not defend, nearly has contact with Haas, who's deep under braking. Momeyer back up to the top spot.
Nicely done from that number 6 car, so he's got the clean air as they head into this fast turn number 6. Feed the car into that curb on the inside. Momeyer drifts out a little bit wide. Marciniak thinking about the inside. It's just one heck of a lunge to try to get up alongside of a car, so he's just going to try to keep the pressure on Momeyer. You see Larry Haas tucked in that 3-car train, trying to get a look to the inside just visually as they crest up and over this hill. You got to be careful about the exit on driver's left. Marciniak got a run on Momeyer. Let's see about through turn number 10.
Doesn't look like anybody really got an advantage over one another on this main straight, but they're still close. They're all jockeying for position anyways, and Marciniak's going to show himself in the mirrors coming up into that first turn. He's left a bit at the apex, though he couldn't get side by side, and it looks like Haas is actually the one that loses out as he drops back coming out of turn 1. Battle for the lead still carries on.
It's exactly what Marciniak wanted to see, because now he can purely focus forward on the attack. He doesn't have to worry about a car making a huge lunge up the inside. But as I say that, our top two were maybe a little bit slow, a little bit ginger into that brake zone, and all of that gap that Larry Haas had just kind of made for himself has now been cut back down nice and tidy through there.
We've already passed the halfway mark of this one. We know about Heindel pitting, but Mark Rondeau has also since been in, Alan Watts as well. The only other two drivers that have taken care of their scheduled pit stop to get to the end. So we still got maybe about another 8 minutes or so before drivers will likely have to pit and will be out of fuel. Meanwhile, we continue to watch the battle between the 6 and the 35, down through turns 7 and 8, and back towards Rent. It's not close enough for Marciniak. He's going to have to try and regroup.
Momeyer's proven to be a tough but fair customer here this race. And, he didn't need to be in the middle of the racetrack there up and over the crest. I feel like it didn't need to be a defensive posture. Marciniak wasn't anywhere close. So I think that Momeyer may be being a little bit tentative in terms of his racecraft. We've seen Marciniak get by him a couple times, but then John definitely has an answer for him, or at least did this previous time. Oh, struggles on the exit. That's what Marciniak was looking for. He's already by for P1.
Ooh, we might have another pass, because look at Larry Haas. He's recovered himself after losing a bit of ground last lap. And indeed, he goes through. Momeyer going to try and take it back under braking. No, not quite there. So change all three positions. Marciniak, your leader. Haas second. Momeyer down to third.
Head on down the hill here and see if Momeyer has an answer. Remember when that white and red number 35 got by John? He had a big lunge down here into turn number 4. He took a look this time on Larry Haas, but just felt like he wasn't quite close enough to close that performance difference there. And now it's Marciniak out front, Haas in second place, and Momeyer here in third.
Looks like BJ Fulton, rather, has taken his pit stop up in the GTE class. So he's shuffled down the order on your timing screen, but he is now good to go to the finish of this race. Top three start to separate a bit this time. And Larry Haas actually on course, I think, to match his best finish of the season, which he had last round. And as I say that, he comes down into pit lane.
He actually had a pretty good run on our leader, and then was able to come up and over the crest of turn number 9, keep the car down on drivers right. So, Joe, remember you were talking about how tricky pit in can be, especially in these green flag conditions. It seemed like Larry Haas did a very, very nice job of navigating that. We'll see how his competitors who was battling with out on the racetrack, whether they gain or actually lose through that section.
All right, this is where things get a little bit interesting with that pit strategy coming into play. 15 minutes left to go. Dylan Scott up at the top of the field, 4 seconds over Michael Bolton. Let's see what their laps look like in comparison over these last few. It's 28.4, which is the quickest that Bolton has set all race, and then a 28.9. Scott with a 28.6 and a 28.4. So a bit trading back and forth. Some of that could be this lap traffic like you were talking about.
We just saw that Cayman GT4 come in pit lane just this previous lap of Larry Haas. Joe, I took a look at the numbers. I think that Larry might have overfilled it. 17.6 seconds stationary in the box. That seems a little bit long. Usually it's about 8 to 10 seconds of fuel is all these cars tend to need.
Yeah, I think unless John Momeyer himself has a major whoops in pit lane, that's going to be him back into P2 easily. In fact, I wonder if Abrams will even manage to get by. Here goes Michael Bolton from second up in the GTEs, pitting in now. He gets down to the pit lane speed and then looks for his pit stall. Jad Duncan inherits second place in the meantime, carries on, has at least a little bit more fuel to keep going for now.
I think the race that we should be watching is definitely the 82 cars. It seems like John Momeyer now finally comes down pit lane, and he's going to take his service. But this is the car that I was mentioning. So BJ Fulton had the battle with Michael Bolton, and as I see that they go up and over turn number 1, he is going to regain that position through strategy. So Michael Bolton feeds himself out onto the racetrack and unfortunately sees the tail of the 82.
Yeah, and I think that is now very solidly in the hands of the 82 after looks like 1.3 seconds or so quicker in pit lane in comparison to Bolton. So it was not only was the clear air that he had, but it looks like that pit stop itself helped him out. Meanwhile, Momeyer is now dealing with Jim Garamani. So that's actually for position, but Garamani has not pitted yet.
Correct. Yeah, I think that Momeyer should be able to kind of pull away from that Momo-themed number 163. And since we were talking about strategy, BJ Fulton popped out about 2.73 seconds ahead of Michael Bolton. And the reason why I mentioned that is Larry Haas flirts with the edge of the track there in turn number 4. Michael Bolton was about 4 seconds behind Dylan Scott, and that is our overall leader. So I have a feeling that once the 08 pits, BJ Fulton is probably going to be pretty close to the back end of our overall leader.
Also, I'm wondering if maybe there was a mistake or a problem for John Momeyer, because his pit stop, as we expected, was much quicker than Larry Haas's. From cone to cone, there was about, and Larry Haas is a black flag. So not only has he had a long pit stop, but it looks like he's gone over the incident limit. It has gone from bad to worse for the 266.
Very unfortunate out there for Larry, so he's going to have to come down pit lane and serve that penalty as we watch BJ Fulton out here continuing to turn fast laps, a 128.4 that last time. Compared that to our leader, a 128.3. So he's not quite the fastest car on the racetrack, but he's trying to make up that ground after that a little bit of an early mistake. Remember, he fell back behind that black and yellow 127. He opted to take the early pit stop strategy to put himself in clean air, and I like that. Mentally as a driver, it's almost like a little bit of a reset button. You can go out there and turn as many fast laps as possible. Now it's just up to everybody else and see where the pit stop cycles through.
Yeah, fully agree. That was a very smart move, it seems, in this race for him. Top 3, all 3 carry on. None of them taking the pit stop this time by, as Fulton has to take evasive action while Marciniak comes into pit lane.
That was just really close. Usually you're a little bit more driver's right as you enter pit lane, and BJ Fulton thankfully didn't clip the back end of our Cayman GT4 leader, but that was definitely a little bit of a nervous moment.
So both Marciniak and Abrams pit in. We just need Garamani to take his pit stop, and Larry Haas still has to serve his penalty, unfortunately, so we'll see him return to the pit lane. Momeyer, in the meantime, here sitting in third, has already taken his pit stop, and there is Marciniak emerging out. The pit stop time was decent, if slightly slower than Momeyer's, but doesn't matter. He's got plenty of buffer, it looks like.
Yeah, I think that he's going to be plenty comfortable out there, about 7 seconds in front of John Momeyer. Here we go. Dylan Scott, our overall leader, hits pit lane. This is going to be the interesting part of this race. BJ Fulton here in this red and chrome number 82. Can he make it to turn number 1? get the drag race with our overall leader, or does Dylan Scott just sail out of pit lane with no worries at all?
I'm not seeing enough of a pace difference that I think he'll catch him, but we'll have to watch. Scott's in his pit stall. Fulton's just coming out of the final corner now. And yep, looks like he's already emerging. Dylan Scott heading out to the pit exit. While it's close-ish, it's really not a threat, unfortunately, if you're BJ Fulton. But fortunately, if you're Dylan Scott, there we can see the difference as we ride on board. There's way too many car lengths between them.
It's got about 9.5 minutes now. They should be even on those fuel levels or about close to. So the performance level between both the cars should be very, very similar. Jad Duncan inherits our overall lead, but can BJ Fulton close in this 2.6 second gap?
To his credit, Fulton was a whole second faster in his box compared to Scott, so he did make up some time on that front. So he should be at least a little bit closer visually compared to how he was before to Dylan Scott. But we need Jad Duncan to come in, and he is certainly looking like he is the fuel whisperer here today, going longer than anybody except for one of our Caymans, Jim Garamani, who's still out. And as I mention it, looks like Jad Duncan's finally heading down pit lane.
BJ Fulton, this lap alone has cut out another quarter of a second, at least there through sector number 2. He was really hanging the tail out, and I've always been taught loose is fast. And once again, going from 2.6 down to 2.5 seconds now. The gap between Dylan Scott and BJ Fulton continues to come down, but I just don't see it coming down quick enough. Little bit more, down to 2.4 seconds now.
Interesting. Yeah. So last lap time, BJ Fulton with a 28.2, which is a personal best. We won't know Dylan Scott's, as that was an out lap, so it'll always look longer for him. But now we get to get a true sense of the pace between the pair of them this time by. And Jad Duncan, by the way, emerged in 4th, it looks like, so just outside of the podium as Bolton is back in 3rd. If I'm seeing this correctly, all of our GTE cars are in the same class position they started this race in.
Yeah, I see that too. Everybody started the race exactly where they are running. Obviously, we've seen some good battles between Rondeau and Shulam earlier on, but Mark Rondeau finally got the better of Jeff out there. And then, of course, we saw this good battle between BJ Fulton and Michael Bolton earlier, which ultimately caused BJ Fulton that early pit stop strategy, was able to pass that black and yellow 127 via the pit stops and turning those laps in clean air, and ultimately has now cut down this lead to 2.3 seconds. It is closing, but like I said, I just don't see it closing quick enough.
I agree. It was about 2/10 quicker last time by, which is a definite pace advantage, but to make up 2.3 seconds, he'll need a little bit more. Now, once he gets in the slipstream, that'll probably pick it up a little bit, but 6 minutes left. We're only looking at, what, about 4 laps to go?
There are variables, right? We haven't mentioned the multi-class traffic, and here BJ Fulton is getting around to Alan Watts. That's going to be a non-issue on the straightaway, but there is still 6 minutes remaining. There are still multiple laps remaining, so there could be that potential that our leader, Dylan Scott, runs up on one of these Cayman GT4 cars at the wrong place at the wrong time, or like what we just saw there in turn number 4, runs a little bit wide and the gap comes down to 2.2 seconds.
It is not over until that checkered flag flies. So you got to stick with it. You got to keep your wits about you, especially in a multi-class race such as this. We ride on board with BJ Fulton. 2.1 seconds now, the gap between them continuing to eke away, getting ever more uncomfortable for Dylan Scott. 5.5 minutes left to go as they cross the line. That was another bit of traffic with Larry Haas at the wrong place at the wrong time. It's down to 1.7 seconds now.
Unfortunately, Fulton's going to have to take the same medicine. I don't think that he's going to get held up quite as much, but definitely not the optimum line in turn number 1. So loses maybe about a tenth and a half, but it's still a net gain. What was 2.2 at the end of turn number 10, 1.9 seconds, now ekes up to 2 seconds. It's just that seesaw effect. Who gets the corner right?
Oh, not BJ Fulton, unfortunately. He was way off the apex.
It looked like that. I think that turn 3 is tricky, though. It's like you can go diving towards that apex curb and kind of take the traditional line, or you can kind of run a little bit wide because that elevation, it almost seems to kind of compress the car if you're out a little bit wide and you actually get on the throttle sooner. It's just a very interesting corner up there.
That is true. We have seen at times drivers be quick being off that apex. I'm not sure that it helped him, though, because it is still at about 2 seconds apart. It was, as it comes down once again through this sector where it seems like Fulton is maybe that little bit quicker. But here comes more trouble. They've now caught Adam Abrams. This might actually be at an advantageous time because it looks like, yeah, he's going to be able to sneak by on the straightaway. So that works out well for Dylan Scott. Now, what about BJ Fulton here as he starts to approach?
I don't think he's going to be affected in turn number 1. That Cayman is just too far out in front, so Fulton's going to get by nicely. And then once again, John Momeyer just on the straightaway, going to be a non-issue for our overall leader. Might be a little bit of an issue for BJ Fulton, but I think that things are going to kind of zipper merge nicely on this next straightaway.
I know we've been giving a lot of attention here at the end to this GTE battle for the lead. I know we haven't covered the GT4s, but that's because Marciniak is now 11 seconds ahead of John Momeyer. So he is well clear. The drama has kind of been sucked out of that one, unfortunately, but we'll definitely head over as soon as that 35 crosses the line for another well-earned win if he can keep this up. BJ Fulton still at about 2 seconds. He made such great inroads initially, and suddenly it has stalled out.
Certainly seems that way, and Dylan Scott doing a very nice job to kind of absorb up all of that pressure. It was not easy these last few laps, especially with those slower multi-class cars being in the wrong spot at the right time, if you will. And Dylan Scott has just done a really nice job to be able to navigate it, maintain that 2-second gap to BJ Fulton. And speaking of nice drives, Michael Bolton doing a nice job as well, just kind of hanging on to what is third place right now.
Absolutely. No real hard chargers to speak of, obviously, as they're all still in that same position they started. But as we know, some of the drivers certainly had gains and losses throughout anyways. Marciniak actually letting our overall leader by, coming up into Remus there, and no dramas between those two. There's BJ Fulton, still at about those 2 seconds back, using up one of his incident points, maybe trying to get a little creative to find some time, but it has bit him back because now he's dropping downwards to 2.6. I wonder if that was a slowdown penalty if you go too wide there? I'm not sure.
I believe it is, and then he was just very, very courteous right here to our Cayman GT4 class leader, Christopher Marciniak. So, unfortunately, our lead battle that we were trying to develop is now kind of dissolved.
Bit of a shame. As we said, it's not over yet. They'll get the white flag next time by, of course, but it's looking less and less likely if you're a BJ Fulton fan that you'll get to celebrate tonight. Won't matter too much. Of course, he has already clinched the championship, so for him, all that matters is that he gets to the end to at least be able to celebrate that. There's Barney with the white flag, signaling 1 to go for Dylan Scott, trying to win for the first time since round 8 this season.
10 turns, well, 9 turns now remaining as Dylan Scott starts to climb one of these monster straightaways uphill into turn number 3. He has done a terrific job all race long. Remember early on in this race, BJ Fulton was really just starting to apply some of that pressure, and then they kind of faded back as just the overall pace of Dylan Scott was just kind of too much. And ever since he got that clean air, he has said, peace out, I am going to win this thing.
Boy, is he, though. It's looking like he has withstood the pressure. He has done everything he needs to do, put it on pole, And when he was under attack, under threat late in the race, responded with a cool head and not make any ill-fated moves. Let a bit of the time bleed away, of course, but I think it looks like it was all under control in the end as the 08 comes out of turn 7 down towards Rint now. Just a little bit of a crest here. And then the track opens up before you. And this quick right-hander, one more to successfully navigate. And he's collected another checkered flag. It's a win for the 08 of Dylan Scott here today in the final round of the Porsche Owners Club Series.
Nicely driven from the driver of that 08, and then the 82, BJ Fulton, comes across the line in second place. Michael Bolton will round out the podium, but this is your Cayman GT4 class winner, Christopher Marciniak. He had to earn the position twice the hard way. He collects a checkered flag.
Excellent job. Second win of the season, but definitely adding to his tally of many podiums. Meanwhile, John Momeyer, I think this is his second podium of the season. Let me double check on that one. No, third podium.
And he was able to hang on because Adam Abrams came out of nowhere in the late stages of this race to kind of round out the podium. There's Larry Haas. He's going to finish fourth. Remember, he had that terrific battle up inside the top three for the majority of this race.
Great job by all involved out there, and especially Adam Abrams. Kind of coming out of where we weren't watching there for a moment and grabbing himself a nice finish to the season. Jim Garamati going to be the last car to the line, but won't be last in his class, as that'll be Alan Watts. It'll be a top 5 here for Jim as he wraps it up. And speaking of wrapping it up, why don't we go through our finishing results and give you the order. Only had a single DNF on this one. The GTEs had Dylan Scott take the win in the end over BJ Fulton, who was about 4 seconds behind after all was said and done. Michael Bolton with another third to collect at the end of the season. Jad Duncan finishing P4 ahead of Mark Rondeau. So he will finish second in the championship, as Jeffrey Shulam was 6th behind them, and Dustin Heindel was the lone DNF, coming home 7th today.
And over to our Cayman GT4 results. It was Christopher Marciniak after starting on pole position. He did get shuffled down the order a couple times, including off that initial start, but was able to regain the lead and ultimately walk away with victory. John Momeyer, a terrific race as well, up 2 positions to finish in second. Adam Abrams rounds out the podium there in third. Larry Haas, a terrific fight all race long, finishes in fourth. Jim Garamati back here in fifth, and Alan Watts in sixth.
Looks like our winner's ready to chat with us. Dylan Scott collecting another win. Like I said, first time since round 8 that he's topped the podium. And Dylan, talk to us about the end of the race, though. Were you watching the mirrors closely? Because it looked like BJ was getting ever closer at times.
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on him. That guy is tricky. He's pretty savvy with, race setup, qualifying setup. He knows how to get the most out of his race. But I was, trying to hit every mark, trying not to make any mistakes, keeping an eye on the gap. It got a little close with traffic. I managed to open it up again. I think him and I were probably neck and neck. I mean, you saw it in qualifying. So BJ's always quick. Got to keep an eye on that guy. He's very tricky, but I very much enjoyed it.
And speaking of the setup, did the weather influence the way that you set up the car at all? We were a bit surprised with the clouds that it seemed like the track itself was still quite warm.
Yeah, it was. I was telling everyone in the chat, we were running the other night in cooler conditions, running 26 flat. How do we go to 28? Like, it was really hot, really slow in comparison to some other nights, which is always frustrating, right? You spend a lot of time on setup, trying to make it work for certain conditions, and you get to race night and it's blazing hot and super slippery. So I just had to sort of say to myself, slow it down, be calm, hit every apex, every brake marker. Don't do anything silly. Don't burn up the tires. My tires felt good. Everything was sort of nice and calm, and thankfully I got that gap early. At the beginning, I was trying to be conservative, and BJ was really pushing me, and I thought there was a chance he was going to make a pass. But once I got that gap, I just sort of got into a bit of a rhythm and just eyes forward, don't look in the mirrors too much.
And it worked out well for you in the end. Great job on that. Excellent third win of the season. Great way to wrap things up. Anybody you want to thank before you go?
Yeah, you guys, GSRC, you make us look good. We sound super professional with your commentating. The POC and the members in it, they're very good people, super friendly, super helpful. And of course, my kids, Nico, Luca, Aurora, love you guys. Thank you.
Dylan Scott, your winner, and our other winner was Marciniak down in the GT4s. I believe Joey has caught up with him.
Yeah, I think we got Christopher Marciniak in here. First of all, congratulations on the win.
Ooh, thank you so much, guys. Thanks. Feels good.
Well, how was it from your driver's seat?
So strong start, and then I got some class racing, muscled off the course a little bit. Looks like John and Larry were able to capitalize on that, and I got back into third there for a little bit, played the game. And really had to fight back. So great racing from the GT4 crew tonight.
And then, yeah, like you said, you kind of got muscled off down there at turn number 4, but I gave you some good credit. Were you aware of BJ Fulton diving down the inside and just kind of gave him some extra room?
Yeah. It said, my spotter was like, car right. And I was like, oh, I'll give him some room. And then he showed up and I was like, oh, I guess we're going over here now.
Well, it was a great piece of heads-up driving because ultimately it kept you in the race and in the fight. Mm-hmm. So great job for that. Before I let you go, is there anybody you want to give a shout-out to?
Shout-out, as always, to my wife and co-driver, Christine. Thanks for the support.
That was Christopher Marciniak starting on pole position and ending up with a victory here today.
And one driver we definitely want to have a little chat with is, of course, our champion, BJ Fulton. Finished in second today, so I'm sure he won't be too disappointed knowing that he had the title clinched anyways. BJ, a champion here in season 1 for 2025. How you feeling?
Pretty good. It's amazing. I think just last season was the first win that I got in this league after being here since 2020, and now two-time champ in a row. Couldn't imagine being there.
So you wound up second, but it seemed like things certainly were interesting with some of the other drivers, especially in terms of the pit stop strategy. Was yours early intentionally to try to give yourself a little bit of clear track?
Yeah, for sure. I saw some traffic coming up, and I knew I had a little bit of pace on Bolton, but I just couldn't unleash it, getting stuck behind him there. So decided to come in early, and it definitely worked out. Also helped that he didn't practice pit entry at all, so I think I was a little bit faster on the pit entry.
So it's one of the secrets I'm sure everybody's going to remember for next time. Are you looking forward to next season? I understand. I think they're switching out of the GTE. Is that correct?
That's right. Next season, we're going to run the GT3s with the GT4. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to drive on the new tire model that iRacing put out. Should be interesting and a lot of fun.
Well, again, congratulations on a title, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more next season.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And with that, I believe we're going to have a little bit of a chat with our second place finisher in the GT4s, John Momeyer.
Yeah, John, first of all, congratulations on the second place finish. You had one heck of a fight today.
It was a fight. Thank you very much.
Talk us through a little bit of that. It was between you and Marciniak, also had Larry Haas mixed in there, and you guys were all kind of swapping positions throughout the middle of the race.
That's for sure. Somebody would make a mistake, and one of us would get by, or Chris was just so much faster. He had so much more pace, so it was hard to keep him behind us. And of course, Alan just pulling to the left and into the wall as we started gridding up for the race when his steering wheel disconnected also helped a little bit.
A little bit of a variable to start that one. Always got to keep you on your toes
Always
out there,
does.
I guess. But real fast, we are closing out the season over here. Anything that you look fondly on remembering here on this one?
This has been a great season. The guys, I got to thank BJ and the other guys, Dylan, and taking care of our comp committee, getting in after each race and looking at who hit each other and handing out penalties and just keeping the races going for us at all. And I know when you look at our standings, it's always kind of interesting to see the order we put it in, but we're a club and we ask for our members to do some things and earn some service points. And when you look at those results on our website, you're going to see the service points from the guys that contributed. And we're waiting for the guys that got the most points to contribute. Write an article, send a picture in about their sim, let the rest of the club know about it. So I hope these guys get that done before the season's over at the end of the year.
Well, John, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do here with Porsche Owners Club and the series in general. So thank you so much. Is there anybody you want to say hi to?
Oh, I always got to thank everybody over at the Crowd family. They recently lost Dawn, and so I want to shout out to them. And of course, my wife and kids for letting me do all the sim stuff in Porsche Owner Club.
That was John Momeyer driving the number 6 car, finishing in second place today.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up for the season. As we said, we got another one coming right up pretty quickly here. So before we go, big thank you again to our sponsors, Porsche, there is no substitute, and Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Thanks to the team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store, and make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Next time out, we'll go to the Nürburgring. That'll be Monday, July 14th at 10 p.m. Eastern for the opening round of this series. But up next is Grand Prix Legends going here to the Red Bull Ring once again. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed on your screen. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.